Hey Jamie, it's Steph. I am going to run through some stuff about the sumo for you. Bottom line is that sumo, oftentimes people will perform it as a wide stance conventional pull, and it ends up feeling generally kind of awkward for them. Sumo is more technical, so to say, so more technical than a conventional deadlift. And so I want to go through a couple of things with you. And I know there's some consideration for your hip and your groin, and so we may end up having you move to, say, a conventional. Again, I wish we had something like a trap bar for you at your house. I think that could be the unicorn, the Goldilocks deadlift for you, because it's putting the weight at the handles at the sides instead of being over the bar. And I'm just not sure if right now your hip mobility will really allow you to get into a proper sumo stance. So a couple of things, if we kind of review and kind of look back at your current sumo. So you definitely have wide feet, so wider than your normal conventional stance. And so when you're starting your sumo, one thing I noticed is your hips are very low. And if I turn to the side here, your hips are almost parallel with your knees. So you are not loading the hamstrings here. I feel this in my quads because I'm basically doing a partial squat. So right now you're kind of getting really low, and then your push off the floor doesn't look bad per se. It's just harder to get into a position where we have created some external rotation through the hip, and now I'm able to load the hamstring and drive up. So having the feet where you do, which is roughly about here, and your feet aren't directly pointed forward, but they're also not turned out enough as much as they would need to be generally in a sumo. So what that does is sometimes gives you a forward shin angle, and means that now the bar, while it's sort of over the center of my foot, means that a lot of my push or pull in the case of deadlift, a lot of this is happening where I have to stay over the bar here, and then once I get past the knee, I have to bring my hip all of this way forward like a conventional deadlift. So how do we address this? And the other thing, after every rep, I really want to see you breaking the bar again, because that's going to help it to stay close to you no matter what stance you decide to use. So how would we improve this? In the sumo, we want to think about really wedging ourselves into the bar. And we still do this in the conventional, but it's a different feeling in the sumo. So I will have my bar set, right? I'm going to step underneath the bar, and I need to toe out a little bit more. And what I need to see is that my hips are open. You can see my hip angle up here is open. This is why it can be tricky for people that have tight hips or their mobility isn't quite there yet, because right now your hip is closed like this. I really need to be here, hip open. That puts the bar really close to my leg. Like I really want a straight up and down of a shin as possible as I'm pushing off the floor. So what that allows me to do is pull myself into the bar. Now, if you've ever seen me sumo, I will load my hamstrings, and when I feel like I'm at that loaded point, then I push off the floor. You can try that. But right now, you'll see if I sit down, I feel like I'm like giving myself a isometric quad workout here, where I'm like in a wall sit basically, with a wide stance. My quads are burning here. I really want to load the hamstrings, and I'm going to get that tension right, break the bar, pull the slack out of the bar, so that when I push off the floor, immediately my hips start to come forward to meet the bar as it comes up. As opposed to, this is roughly where we're at currently, I sort of push. See how I'm still leaning over the bar here? Now I have to use my glutes to push, right? Push my hip forward. So sumo is a more technical position, and for that reason, we might have you revert back to one of two things. We can have you try a kettlebell sumo, just to see if we can have you get into the correct hip open position without having to deal with the barbell. So it'd be a similar position. I still need to toe out more, and then I'm going to come down here until I have loaded my hamstring here, and then I'm going to practice closing my armpits. Like you don't want somebody to tickle you, or you're trying to juice under your armpits, or you're trying to break the kettlebell handle. Okay, here. And I'm going to get my hips to come forward, boom, here. All right, and then back down, boom. As opposed to this, which is a very different motion, right, where I'm pushing with my legs, and then as I pass the knee, now I have to get my hips forward. Sumo does require more quad than a regular conventional, but at the end of the day, I'm still using my hamstrings. I have to get my hips forward as I'm straightening my legs and pushing off the floor. So we can have you try the kettlebell, just to see if your hips will allow you to get into that more hip open position. If not, then we can have you try going back to the conventional, and if that isn't going to suffice, we can potentially talk about other options, like say, for example, the trap bar, which could put your hands at your sides. And with the trap bar, you get a little bit more, can get into a little bit more of a squatty position as you lift, and so that helps you use your quads a little bit more as well, just to take some pressure off of the hip area. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions, if that makes sense, and we can go from there.